So this video will contain spoilers if you haven't gotten to the point in either the novel or if you're watching this from the future, the anime. If you haven't gotten to the point that Kenley literally peeks his guts out after seeing his reflection, then you should probably hold off on watching this video as it will contain spoilers. That being said, let's get down to the actual video. There are a lot of side characters in Lord of the Mysteries, some very memorable side characters being Old Neil, Dunsmith, Leonard, and the Goat Benson. However, this video is not about them, as there's another side character that I just can't get out of my head. As the title may suggest, it is Kenley White. Now, Kenley barely appears in the novel, and even when he does, his scenes are usually pretty short, and the main focus usually isn't on him. The amount of information we know about Kenley is actually very minimal and surface level. To make things even worse, the information we learn about him is usually secondhand and comes from people recounting their experiences or memories of him. Due to this, we can actually review all that we know about Kenley and his life in a pretty short time span without going on for way too long. From chapter 42, we learn that Kenley is of the Sleepless Pathway, and from chapter 106, where Kenley makes his first appearance in a meeting, we learn from the narrator that Kenley is a short, muscular king with thick brown hair who looks very capable and is someone who had been promoted from a civilian staff to that of a Nighthawk. Later on, after his death, we learn from Dunsmith that Kenley was someone who could play the guitar, sing, and tell stories even though he wasn't very tall. Although I'm not sure what being tall has to do with any of these things or feats. The last bit of information that we do know about Kenley is that he has a mother and a father who are still alive, and a fiancée that he has now sadly left behind. Other than these bits of information that we know about Kenley, the rest is unknown. Now, the reason I believe Kenley is one of the most tragic characters in the novel is not because of all this information that I have just provided, even though Kenley's death is tragic in the context that this is a case of parents having to bury their child and a fiancé losing their lover. I say this because the manner in which Kenley's death is handled made it very hard to feel sad for Kenley, as his death and the tragedy of it was handled in a way that is, in essence, just, hey, this is Kenley. Look at his family and his fiancée that he has left behind. You should feel really bad for him because he has left these people behind and is dead now, which is inferior to what was done for other characters like Old Neil and Dunsmith, where a deep and genuine connection is formed, which then is used to stimulate an emotional response from readers that is genuine and isn't forced. I, of course, understand that this is because there's not enough time to flesh out every side character in the novel, but I'm just saying this to clarify why some people may not feel that emotional about Kenley or might even have forgotten who Kenley is as a whole. Now, returning to why I believe Kenley is one of the more tragic characters, at least within the first volume, it is because of his death. On the surface, it seems as if Kenley died in their mission to either subjugate or kill Madame Sharon because of his own inexperiencedness and or nervousness, which ultimately caused him to jump at the sight of Madame Sharon. At the end of the first volume, however, we learn that Kenley's death was actually preordained or written by Insengwil, who was using Artifact 0-08 at the time to orchestrate Kenley's death in order to slow down Dunsmith's digestion of his potion so that he could practically all but guarantee his chances of obtaining St. Selena's ashes. This is the reason why I believe that Kenley is such a tragic character, because if you're a Nighthawk or someone in a profession whose duty is to serve and protect people, you would hope that if you die in this line of work, that your death was for either the greater good or in order to save someone who's in trouble. But in Kenley's case, his death didn't really serve any of this, since even though his barbaric rage at the end of his life kind of saved Klein from a sticky situation that he was in, his death ultimately caused more harm than good, since if he were alive, Klein and Kenley could have kind of coordinated together in order to survive the onslaught of attack that Madame Sharon would have sent their way while they were weathering the storm in order to wait for Dunn to ultimately arrive and help them. Furthermore, Kenley's death ultimately served the purpose that Insengwyl wanted it to, which was to basically weaken and slow down Dunsmith's digestion of his potion. Now, knowing all of this, if I were Kenley, I would be so livid. I would be flipping tables and just throwing chairs in heaven because, like, it's so bullshit. How am I gonna die? Like, I know I'm a side character. I'm supposed to basically do stuff so that the main character can shine and do his MC thing. But if I die, like, at least make my death be for the greater good. Kind of like old Neil, how his death was used to remind Klein that it is very dangerous to be a Beyonder and that he should never let his guard down. But like my death as Kenley was just basically used in order to slow down Dunsmith. Like I'm basically a glorified doorstopper that was used to target someone who is quote unquote much more important than me. Like, what the hell, man? I have a wife and a family that I could have been taking care of. Why couldn't something else be used instead of a literal person? Like, the first time Kenley's death happened in the novel, it just struck me from just so out of nowhere, so out of left field that I was like, oh shoot, he puked his heart out? Like, can he survive that? Is that a part of his sleepless pathway abilities? Like, well, I've never seen Dunsmith do this before. It just feels as if Cuttlefish was like, hey, I have this other character that I could make use of. Let me just kill him. Hopefully in the upcoming anime, Kenley is more fleshed out so that his death is kind of more meaningful and or impactful at least. And if they don't really do anything like that in the anime, I mean, I wouldn't be disappointed. I would just be happy that at least now we have an official illustration for what Kenley looks like, since right now we really don't have anything pertaining to Kenley other than just descriptions of him and this fan art that I don't know if it's official or not. But yeah, in conclusion, I feel very bad for Kenley. From all that we know about him, Kenley seems like such a chill and awesome guy to be around, as he's not constantly, but he's someone who can play the guitar, he can sing, he can tell you poems, and be someone who's an all-around joy to be around. He deserves so much more than the fate that he was handed in the novel, and I hope that in the upcoming anime, we get to see more of him, or at least more than what we got in the novel, which was just explanation of how he lived his life and a eulogy pretty much. With that being said, thank you so much for watching the video all the way through. I hope that you guys have a good rest of your day,